We're in a very windy Oman, and it's December 2023, even though you're watching this quite a bit later. The reason is an updated Audi e-tron GT. We're here to drive a prototype. We're not allowed to talk about the design. We're not allowed to show you the interior, but we can talk about the dynamics and the new suspension system that Audi has come up with for this car. It'll go on sale in the latter half of 2024, so that's why this is such an advanced preview, if you like. The big news for this car, it will have more performance, but again, we haven't been told anything about that, how much more performance. The big news is this new active suspension system. It uses the high voltage system of the car itself to enable really fast changes to the suspension. And what it can do is adapt to the road. So in comfort setting, what it does is it leans into the corner, if you like, a bit like a motorbike. And the idea is that it makes it more comfortable for the passenger. It's got another few features as well, a few little bits and pieces, and I'll talk a bit more about those when we go driving. But one thing I will show you as we get into it is something Audi calls easy entry. And this is unusual, but actually remarkably effective. Let's have a look. So, as you go to the car and you open the door, the car lifts up to make it easier to get in. It looks really strange, but it's quite effective. Well, that's the first party trick, but there's plenty more up the sleeve of this car. Let's go out and drive it and see what it's like. Unfortunately, I can't show you the interior and tell you anything about it whatsoever, but I presume there'll be a few detail changes here and there. And as I mentioned earlier, we also expect there will be a bit of a performance increase, but we're not talking about that today. We're not being told any figures, etc. Not that. The e-tron GT needs a performance boost, even in its standard form, never mind the RS like we're driving here. Now, how that suspension works is interesting. There's a wholesale reinvention, in fact. So there was air suspension before, air springs and adaptive damping, and there is still, but this is a new system. The air suspension, the air springing part of it is actually simpler than before. It used to be a 3-chamber system, and it's not anymore. It's only a single chamber. And the reason for that is that the dampers are ultra sophisticated. They've got hydraulic lift system, and they've got a hydraulic pump as well with that. And they use the high voltage electrical system to operate, which means they can react really quickly. And as you'll see in the video, the car can go up and down really quickly, it can do individual corners really quickly, and that pretty much transforms how it drives. In comfort mode, by default, on the outside part of the corner, the outside dampers lift up the body, so it counteracts the G-forces as you're cornering, and that's for comfort, actually, for the comfort of the passengers, but also of the driver. So likewise, when you're braking or when you're accelerating, the system also operates. So when you brake hard, the dampers on the front effectively lift the nose, counteracting the natural dive. And when you're accelerating to stop the dip, the rear dampers push up a little bit and to counteract that. And it's quite effective. It can be turned off in the system, so some people don't like the feel of it happening, and you can turn that off. And it doesn't operate in the dynamic mode, which is, I think, really interesting. The idea being that somebody who's in the dynamic mode or the RS driving modes as well, they are perhaps driving a little bit quicker and want to feel what the car is doing, perhaps driving to the limit a bit more, and it's better that you have a natural feel for that you can actually feel where the limits of adhesion are, etc., rather than it being disguised by this system. Alongside that, the other technical upgrade that we're allowed to talk about is the steering. This is rear wheel steering, and it just changes how the car feels. So it's more stable at higher speeds, obviously lane changing, etc. But also, of course, it's more agile at lower speeds and maneuvering and tighter corners. And because of that, Audi has been able to make the main steering, the front axle, more direct. And that actually changes the personality quite a bit. It makes the car feel more responsive straight away. So owners of the existing car will notice these things immediately. And that's this prototype drive in a nutshell, really. We're not allowed to tell you much more, as I said. You can take what you can yourself from the look of the car, what you can see. But I guess I think people will really notice, but especially existing owners will notice the increase in the dynamic window, if you like. So more comfortable on one side, more dynamic on the other, and just a little bit more responsive. It feels a little bit sportier, really, without compromising on its day-to-day usability, I guess. We really look forward to driving the finished product. That'll be later in 2024, but in the meantime, have a look at the website. Make sure you read all about it too. There's a few more details in there. So that's our first drive in the prototype version of the new RS e-tron GT. I told you what we can tell you about it. You can take it from the design what you want yourself. It's definitely an interesting opportunity to try it, and the new suspension system. If you're an owner of the existing car, you probably will want to get into this as soon as it arrives, because it does transform the driving dynamics. Anyway, if you want to know more about the car, pop along to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie, and it's a great resource for researching your next new car.